the value of early feedback and why every new project needs a beta launch. And chances are, especially myself, when I first started my first directory website almost 10 years ago, I just dove right in, and I was just going off of my intuition and my assumptions, and I could have saved myself a whole lot of time if I took a step back and actually took advantage of the benefits of a beta launch. And Pat, I know that you're a big advocate for beta launches, especially with what you guys talk about with the directory gurus. Can you explain to us exactly kind of what the benefits or goals of a beta launch are and what it is exactly?
Yeah, sure thing. I think oftentimes, and especially, if it's your first time launching an online business or any business whatsoever, you have an idea in your head, and usually the thing that gets in your way more than anything else is you wanting it to be the very best that it can be. And it's not really a fault to really want things to be as good as they can be, but if you've never launched a business before and you wait until everything is perfect, that's probably going to take you a lot of time. It's probably going to take you a lot of money. And since it's your first time you're running an online venture, you don't really have the experience, and you haven't received any feedback whatsoever if whether or not this idea you have that might be a success is going to work. So when you do not do a beta launch, when you do not take steps to get early feedback, to get out there and see if this idea you have is a viable idea, then you really run the risk of spending a lot of energy and money in an idea that perhaps was never really going to have a good chance to succeed. Myself, for example, I ran a travel agency. It was the first business I ever ran here in Costa Rica when I moved here, and I worked really hard on my travel agency for 7 years. And it took a very long time for me to realize one of the best business lessons I ever heard in life is, what table are you sitting at? Meaning, if it's a poker analogy, meaning who else is sitting at the table with you? So I wanted to be a travel agency, but I was competing against Expedia. I was competing against TripAdvisor. I wasn't offering anything different than these other travel agencies, which had billions of dollars, if not millions of dollars, and some of them their marketing budgets. So I spent 7 years fighting giants, not really solving a problem in the industry. And the next thing you knew, I had to close my business. It was not a viable product. So the whole concept of a beta launch is, don't do what I did. Don't spend 7 years trying to launch an idea and not finding out before you spent a ton of energy and money to see if it even had a viable chance to succeed at the beginning stages. So the whole point of the webinar today is to give you guys tips and steps to follow to get that super valuable early feedback to see if you're on the right track and if this business idea or concept you have has a real chance to succeed.
Yeah, it's really for everyone's benefit to save you time. And it's okay if, let's say you go through this whole discovery process with your beta launch and you realize, let's say there is no demand, at least you find out earlier than later. And there's a lot of value in that. So I'll just read off this list really quickly. So the goals of a beta launch is to find out if your idea is even worth it. Is there a demand? With the early feedback, are you going to get good insight of if your product has viability? With that feedback, you can also refine your original idea. And as you're talking to people and getting that feedback, you can improve your pitch and talking points. You guys know what focus groups are. Ad agencies use focus groups to find out the specific words to use when they're to pitch a product to the public. And it's important to know what those talking points should be for your industry. And the only way to do it is to talk to people in a beta launch scenario and get that feedback and figure out what specific phrases and words people are using. And also those people that you're talking to, you can build relationships with them. So once you're out of the beta launch stage, you can eventually reach out to them with your real product. And hopefully with all the feedback, it's going to be a killer product that they want.
Yeah, and Jason, for anybody that's listening to the webinar that says, hey, I already launched my website, maybe this webinar isn't really going to relate to me, I can tell you that at some point we're going to give you a tip that my existing customers still use to this day. That is basically their highest converting strategy to land new members. So using this whole beta launch strategy, we're going to give you that tip. So even if you've already launched your website, I can assure you're going to get great value today.
We just talked about all the awesome points and goals and outcomes of a beta launch. So just a short list of what can happen without a beta launch. And a lot of it is falling into traps that you set for yourself. You're making assumptions about the industry or the people in that industry. You're probably doing more work in setup and investing more time than is required to create a simple product that the people actually want. And again, with that, you're risking your time without any real data. Now, it's okay to jump into an idea and get excited about an idea, but the approach in which you start working on that idea, you have to be very careful about your resources, and that's your personal time and your money. And also without a beta launch, again, you're jumping into the idea blindly, or you're using your own phrases and you're using your pitch that you haven't tested yet. So you might be missing opportunities to gather that critical feedback that's going to eventually set you up for success when you try to reach out to the masses. I've seen a lot of people just launch their website without any feedback, not even feedback from friends and family. They put a huge budget into Facebook ads or Google ads, and then it's crickets. Nobody's signing up. No one's doing anything. And it's not that they have a bad idea. It's probably the way the website is pitching the idea is incorrect. So again, you want that critical feedback. And then also, if you launch too early without that data, you're going to be jeopardizing your brand. You might be just setting yourself up for failure, and you want to set yourself up for success. And that's really what the goal of a beta launch is giving yourself all the chances to be successful with your business idea. So as Pat mentioned, there is good news. Even if you've launched your site, it's not too late. Beta launches are a continuous and ongoing practice that every business can implement and improve to improve their products and services. So what you have right now, that could be the feedback that you're looking for. If you've already launched and there isn't too much traction or activity, it's not a problem. Use that to gain the feedback with the tips we're going to show you on how to execute a successful beta launch here. So Pat, so we know the goals of a beta launch. How does it tie into the benefits here? How are they a little different?
Okay, so yeah, so the benefits are things that you might not realize you're going to get out of doing a beta launch, things that might fly a little bit under the radar. One of the things that comes out to me right away is the entire winning over early adopters. And for those of you that might be new terminology for you, but if you've come up with an innovative idea, an innovative solution to a problem, that means that it's new to the market. And the people that are going to be the most passionate about your idea are going to be early adopters. So by running a beta launch, what you're going to be doing during that beta launch is you're going to be building relationships with these people that love to be at the cutting edge of new solutions and ideas that tackle ongoing issues. So that's one of the benefits. These are going to be your ambassadors as you go into new markets. They're going to have more patience because they're going to understand it's a new solution, there's bugs, and they'll really be the people you can work with on a regular basis to continually improve the services that you're trying to offer to them. Also, it's going to allow you to get familiar with your pitch. So you're doing a beta launch, it's going to require you getting on the phone, it's going to require you building landing pages, and essentially it forces you to sell your idea before your idea is fully developed. I find that oftentimes people, and I use this terminology, I think I use it on my homepage on Project Pat, as I ask people straight up, are you building a website or are you building a business? It's a lot of fun to build a website, to build landing pages, but if you're not actually trying your pitch out, if you're not trying to sell, if you're not trying to see if you can get people engaged and interested in your product, if that's not what you're spending your time on, you're probably building a website and you're not building a business. The sooner you start talking to potential customers, the sooner you start running ads to landing pages and seeing if they convert, the sooner you're going to get to find out if this idea that you're working on is viable or not. That's really the difference between somebody that's running a business and wants to see if it can succeed or not, to somebody that is really just delaying that initial launch. And the reason why a lot of us delay, and I was guilty of this myself, is that the reason why you build your website, the reason why you continually design, the reason why you continually try to add new features and continue to tell yourself it's not ready yet is because there's a big, big fear of rejection. The moment that you start trying to sell your idea, it's when you open up the door to people potentially telling you that what you're trying to offer them is not really a solution that they're interested in. And that's why you keep delaying yourself with busy work and continually design changes and color schemes. And I need this and I need that before I can talk to people. And I can tell you with experience that that's actually not true. It's the opposite. You'd be better off talking to people before even launching a website and seeing if there's any interest at the grassroots level of what it is you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That was definitely valuable advice there, Pat. So in a nutshell here, again, you're setting yourself up for success with a beta launch. And again, it's that early feedback, whether it's people loving your idea or hating your idea. It's the goal here is to save you time so that you can move on or pivot as needed. All right, so here's the fun stuff, like how to roll out your beta launch. And it's all about discovery and feedback and more discovery and more feedback and modifying your original idea till you have hopefully a viable product that the majority of the market, or at least the people you're getting feedback from, are excited to sign up to. So there's a few ways to do discovery. One of the easiest ways is to join community groups of your potential customers or members and see if they have the problem you're hoping to solve or create a solution for or provide a service for. You can reach out. You don't have to say you're with a specific company because at this point probably nothing exists yet. Just find out if people have those pain points. And Pat, you had mentioned like a sample post. Just you can say it verbally. Like you can join one of these groups
Yeah.
and post something like what?
Exactly. So let's say I'm just going to, off the top of my head, let's say my directory is going to tackle the issue of online reviews, and I have a solution that can help people with their online reputation. So I have this idea, and people can reply to reviews on Brilliant Directories. It's a great review module. I'm going to launch it as an alternative source to Yelp, as an example. For lawyers, I'll be very specific to an industry. So then what I would do is I would start going to lawyer Facebook groups, and I wouldn't ever use my brand. I would go in as a lawyer.
As a group member.
As a group member, correct. And I would say, hey guys, I'm having issues with reviews. Does anybody in this group have any softwares or solutions or any ideas on how I can solve this problem that I'm having? There's two things that are going to happen. You might learn of competitors that you never knew existed, which is really, 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 really important to know before you invest money and time into a solution. Because perhaps you haven't found a website that offers what you offer, but perhaps there's somebody there that's already doing it. Just because they're already doing it doesn't mean that your idea isn't viable. Of course, you can do it better, but it's really important to know the landscape of competition for the services that make it your unique competitive advantage when you're calling lawyers, because they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm already using these guys. So it'll be important for you to realize what's the differentiating factor between you and the potential customers. Or you may find out that it's just a big issue and people say, yes, this is an issue, there's no solution. At that point, you've basically, it's a great proof of concept that the communities of lawyers are saying, yeah, we have an issue tackling online reputation. There's not really a service out there that tackles that. And then you know that whatever you invest in, it's going to be a unique service that you'll be offering that particular industry.
Perfect. Yeah. So you blew my mind there. Yeah, it is. You find out if there's already competitors out there, if they recommend any solutions. You can see how developed those solutions are. And you can see if it's really a problem. If you don't get any reactions, then there probably isn't a demand in the industry for that. So again, saving yourself time. Let's say there is some interest, Pat. So now that you've kind of see that people are having that problem or looking for that type of service or solution, what's the next step? Linking them to a landing page to do what? What does that landing page have on it exactly.
So, I think this ties in a little bit to that secondary offer. Um, there is an adage that says "fake it till you make it." So if you're just doing it for research purposes, again, I don't know how many lawyers there are in the U.S. or how many dentists or how many chiropractors, but I'm assuming it's a fairly high volume. So you may even want to make as if your full product exists, build a landing page for that product, and see if people fill out the form to get more information on that product, even though you haven't fully developed it. And I know that for some people they'll be more comfortable with that approach or not. I personally love that approach because you're not going to run it for eternity. You might run it for just a couple of days, get 500 people to visit the page, and see how many of them have engaged with that content. If you're
Okay.
getting a good response, then you know you're onto something. Again, these are all just confirmation points that it's worth taking your venture one step further.
So create a landing page to see if people are interested in receiving more information on this service or product that solves a potential problem or
Correct.
provides a type of solution. So nothing fancy, just something simple, and that's going to be an indicator where there's interest or not, and if you should move forward with your idea or not, or if you need to modify your pitch on that landing page.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So that's one way to interact with people, and then there's two other ways we mentioned here: cold calling businesses and in-house visits.
Yeah, so the third point, and that's what I teased earlier in the webinar, is actually my personal favorite. And if you're having trouble getting through to people on the phone and getting them to engage with your directory, I really hope you pay attention to this section because this is about one of the best tips I can share on a webinar. So if I have a directory website, regardless of the industry, I can try to call people like a veterinarian, for example, and I can pitch them on joining my directory. And if anybody that's tried to do that, I'm sure will share with us how difficult of a journey that is because it's a sales call. And every single one of us on this webinar, we're all bombarded with sales calls. We get called every day by credit card companies, insurance companies, people wanting surveys. Everybody wants our money. So what that means is when we get that phone call, we disengage, even if the product or the credit card fees or the reward points, even if they're giving us an amazing deal, we just kind of check out on the phone. So it's not your fault that the people you're calling are checking out. So one strategy that I know works really well for my customers is they use the beta launch strategy even though they have a live website. So for example, I would call a veterinarian and I would say, hello, Dr. Smith. I'm calling part of this association. The reason we're calling is that we discovered that there's a concern in this industry for X, Y, and Z, and we want to know if you share that concern. Is that a problem for you? I want to connect with them emotionally. I want to tell them what the problem is, and I want to see if they agree with us that it's a problem. If you've really highlighted a problem that they're facing, they're going to say, yes, that's an issue for me. And you do not transition into the sales call right there on the spot. What you tell them is you say, great, what do you think about this as a solution to that problem? Because you're not making a sales call and because you're building a relationship and you're trying to address an issue that's common in the industry, you'll see that the conversation is a lot friendlier. They're not on edge, and then you can close that call and basically say something along the lines of saying, well, thank you so much for your feedback. Would you mind if I called you in a couple of weeks when I have a little bit more information about the solution we have to this problem? And you'll be shocked about the difference in results on your phone calls because people now are not worried about what you're having to say. They've opened up to you and they say, yeah, I'd love to hear more about it. And that way you're setting up your following call. When you go into your sales pitch, ideally the person you're talking to on the phone has already spoken to you. You don't want to make your sales pitch on the first call basis unless you have tremendous sales experience and you have the skills to close on an initial first call. But I believe building relationships is always the best route to take.
And Pat, you actually touched on something that we covered in previous webinars where you need to have a mission. So when you're calling this person, we'll use the veterinarian as an example, you're not selling them something. You're asking them if they have a problem, and you're letting them know that your organization is set out to help solve that problem. And if you move forward with solving that problem, will they get behind you, or are they interested with finding out what you come up with to help solving that problem or providing that solution? So that again goes back to you know, changing it from like a business directory to an organization that has a mission and a purpose, and it's serving a specific industry and the people in that industry, and it's set out to do good for the people in that industry. And that's something professionals can get behind.
I agree.
And then you mentioned it, follow up with the people who show interest, and then use their feedback to refine your final product. That goes to the keywords and phrases that are literally coming out of their mouths, the problems that they're saying. You want to reflect those, the commonalities between what people are telling you, and make sure you're using similar verbiage on your site and in your materials, because we know that those are the words that resonate with potential people when you launch your product. All right, so let's say you're sending people to landing pages, you're talking to people. What are the metrics and key performance indicators that someone should look out for, Pat, to find out if this idea has legs and they should move forward with the next step of investing more money in development, more of their personal time, bringing on partners and investors and whatnot? Are there complicated metrics to look at just to find out if you have a good idea or not?
I really don't think they're that complicated. I think that slide lays them out very simply there for you. And basically, let's say you have a landing page. You want to basically see how many people have gone to my landing page, whether I did social media campaigns, pay-per-click, whatever means I did, go to forums. You should have Google Analytics set up. That's just the basic tip is have Google Analytics set up so you know how many people have gone to that page. And then based on that volume, you're going to see how many people have filled out a form. So normally on a landing page, you want to have a form. There has to be some reason that they're going to give you their email. That's the point of your beta launch is, are you interested? And that's the metric that you're going to see if they're interested. The confused metric, that's when you're calling them. So you're talking to them on the phone, you're pitching your idea. To you, you've been thinking about it for years. It's clear as day in your head what you're solving. But when you're talking to people, how long is that pitch for you to convey what it is you're trying to solve? The more time you need to spend on the phone with them, the more confusing the solution is that you're proposing to them. So that's a good metric is, do they get it right away? Does it take a long time for them to get it? And then of course, are they willing to sign up? And if you can gather what they'd be willing to pay or what value they associate to that solution, that's incredible information before you do your final launch.
Awesome. And with the final launch, that's, you know, getting your site set up, your formal site, and then driving traffic to it, which is, again, the second level of your time and financial investment in your online business. But it's good to know that you got strong feedback from potential users. You have potential users who are ready to sign up and to be your first members on your site because you've already researched them.
Mm-hmm.
You've gathered email addresses from your landing pages.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already setting yourself up for success just by being smart about the way you approach your business's launch.
That's correct. Basically, I know Brilliant Directories, for example, has a marketplace. I have a listing in the marketplace, and it's for people looking for customization and get development assistance. Basically, my recommendation is you reach out to the marketplace once you've done some sort of proof of concept, some sort of beta launch on your website. Because if you start reaching out to developers by nature just want to build whatever you ask them to build. So there's no data behind the value of that. So I always recommend if you can find a way to do a beta launch, talk to potential customers, test out your idea before you engage with development companies. It's definitely the best approach to take because when you do engage with any sort of development or go to any sort of marketplace and hire additional people to your team to build out new features or functionality or design layouts, you'll have a lot more confidence that the money you're spending into that is worth the investment because you've already tested the concept.
Perfect. And in a nutshell, guys, some of this is higher level, some of this is really easy to comprehend. if any of this seems like a lot of work, I think I could break it down in a nutshell. Talk to as many people as you can about your idea, or not. You don't have to say your idea, but find out if there's a problem in the industry for the idea that you want to create a solution for, and use that feedback to craft the ultimate product and website that you're going to launch. Because if you go into it blind, you're really just going off of your own assumptions and your own ideas, and it's not that they're bad, but crowdsourcing information from potential members is invaluable, and it will save you a lot of time and set you guys up for success. So thanks, Pat, for helping with this presentation. It's super valuable here.
Awesome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Jason.